pressed for time a little bit, so I'm going to sort of rush it in some points. But I want to talk about, for the most part, evaluating eyewitness testimony and what my experience in that realm has been over the last 27 years. People who report these encounters Sasquatch are usually folks who see something that confuses them a great deal. They keep quiet about it. They're not so sure about it. They tell one or two friends about it. The friends tell them they're crazy, so they decide to keep it to themselves and not tell anyone else. Researching this and interviewing witnesses, you sometimes come across sightings in very unusual ways. Just a few days ago, before we came down here, I got a call from John Green, who told me that a man named Dan Sailbrecken from Cloverdale, Alberta, was trying to get a hold of me. Dan has a cousin, Tim, who also lives in Cloverdale, and his uncle, Gib, has a brother-in-law whose father-in-law may have seen a Sasquatch around Stave Lake. Well, of course, this is the kind of thing you run into all the time. So the first two people I had the phone number for, and they didn't know where Uncle Gib was living because he had just moved, and they didn't know where his brother-in-law was, so I sort of gave up on that one. Now, more recently, we've had a report come in, and which was the real last legitimate one, in my opinion, that I looked into, and that was this just past March, in Half Moon Bay along the Sunshine Coast of British Columbia. This lady was driving the route she's driven every day, twice a day for the last 15 years because she owns a small store in Seashelt. She lives in Half Moon Bay. And this time going home, something crossed the road in front of her with their little girl in the child seat in the back that she had never seen before, and it upset her greatly. So she phoned me up, and I believe she made a report on the BFRO webs page when she found that on the computer, because she was very, very confused and upset by what she saw. When I went up there to talk to her, first of all, I went to her business, which was a store called Hot Tamales, which I thought was an Italian restaurant. Turned out to be an adult toy store for women. So walking in there, I guess I experienced the fear that Autumn Williams was talking about yesterday for the first time. And I remember thinking to myself, boy, if Renee had ever seen me walking into this place, he'd never let me hear the end of it. He never would. But anyway, she was a very nice lady. And after I did an extensive interview with her, she broke down. And she was very, very upset because a couple of her neighbors had heard about what she had seen, and they were ridiculing her and calling her a liar. And she was very upset by this. And quite frankly, I can't blame her, because she was angry. You know, she came forward, she told about what she saw, and in less than a week, she's being ridiculed by people who she didn't get along with anyway. Personally, I think the lady who ran the coffee shop next door was just jealous for her successful business. But she was crying, and I tried to reassure her. And I say this to everyone who has seen a Sasquatch. If anyone ridicules you, always remember, their ridicule comes from a position of ignorance. Therefore, their opinion of you doesn't matter, because they have no idea about what you saw. Okay, can we have the first slide, Jace? Jace, can we have the first slide, please? Yeah. This is her, this is her little girl, and this is her husband. I'm not going to say her name because she had, quite frankly, asked me to keep it to myself for a while. Now, she and the little girl were the only ones to see the darn thing, right? Her husband took me aside later on and asked me, point blank, could you please tell her something to set her mind at ease, because she won't let the little girl play in the backyard anymore. Their house backs right onto the national park there. Next slide, please. This is Leaning Tree Road, which is an offshoot of the Coastal Highway Road, which is the only landmark within a half kilometer where this thing crossed the road. There is no houses there, no business, no garage, nothing. Okay, next slide, please. This is her pointing to where it came out. You can see 2 days before when it happened, you can still see the marks where something came out of the trees. and there's about an 8-foot ditch there. Whatever it did came out, it walked across the road, and as she said it, when she saw it on her headlights, it crossed the road, and she couldn't understand why, when it got to the opposite side of the road, it almost seemed like it disappeared, like it was a whoosh, and it was gone. Well, when I went out there and investigated, we discovered that on the driver's side of the road, the left-hand side of the road, the west side of the road, where it disappeared, there's about a 12-foot drop into bravels, that thick, blackberry bushes that just tear you apart. And whatever it was, didn't even delay a moment. It just went straight across, down, and it was gone. And she stopped. Next slide, please. And that's the area where it came out. You can almost see the trail where something came through there still. This was 2 days later. And next one, please. And that's her pointing to where it went down. Now, you can't really see from here, but there's about a 12-foot drop here. And on the other side of the road, the west-hand side of the road, there's a mile and a half of old-growth forest with nothing in between, and then you get the ocean, the Pacific Ocean and the beaches. And, of course, that's where I feel the thing was probably going. Next one, please. And that's where it went down. You see how thick these bravels are? That stuff would almost tear you apart. And yet when I went down there, I could not find too much in the area of hair or anything like that. So there was basically nothing. And the thing just plowed right through there. Quite amazing. Next one, please. Okay, just hold it for a second before we continue. Okay. Now, the thing about this is eyewitness accounts and continuing reports of the Sasquatch is I always tried to find patterns and comparisons and things that give you some idea as to what the heck is going on out there, and I like to compare them to. But I find that the more we try, the more we actually don't know, because patterns never seen, and stats and statistics can change as the years go by. They'll be completely different next year when you have 3 or 4 more reports come in. Is the glass half full or half empty? But I just did a few here quickly. I'll do a few here quickly to give you an idea. I was trying to compare British Columbia to the province of Alberta, which is the province rates next. It shares the Rocky Mountains. Like, for instance, this first one here, when a Sasquatch was sighted, the time of year. In British Columbia, and this is out of a total of 87 reports, 13 occurred during the spring. 27 occurred during the summer months. 19 occurred in the fall, and this is the calendar fall, remember. A lot of people don't seem to realize that fall goes all the way to December 21st. 12 occurred in the winter, and 16 made no mention of the time of year at all. Next one, please. In Alberta, the breakdown was basically the same, though the total number was somewhat less. Spring was 5, summer 17, the majority, fall 10, and during the winter months 2. Now, a lot of people seem to think that autumn and fall are the peak time for Sasquatch reports, but my files don't support this. High summer seems to, according to my file reports, it seems to be the big time to possibly encounter a Sasquatch. Now, winter reports, I don't personally believe the Sasquatch hibernates. I think the lack of reports in the winter is because there are a lot few people running around in the middle of nowhere in the winter, and the ones that are making a lot of noise. Snow machines, whatever. Next one, please. Okay, the time the Sasquatch excited in BC. The majority, 64%, or 76% of the total occurred during daylight hours. 19 or 24% occurred after dark. So, according to my stats, so much for the nocturnal theory, if you go by that. But of course, that doesn't mean nothing. Next one, please. Alberta, the breakdown's basically the same. 26 during the day, 8 at night. Next one, please. Hair color. Now, this is something that people always wonder about, the variety of hair color. In British Columbia, 18%, 15 in total, in my files, reported black hair. B, and this is the most common one, 20 reported brown hair. 2 reported blackish brown or brownish black. 7 reported reddish brown. 3 reported gray. 3 reported black with gray tips. 13 said dark. 1 said it was light colored, but he did not mean white. And 22% they said, we don't know, it was just kind of gloomy looking. In Alberta, next one please. Right. In Alberta, the breakdown was basically the same again, except this, unlike BC, in Alberta, the majority seemed to be jet black. 13 reported black, 6 reported brown, 1 reported gray, 6 reported reddish brown, 4 reported brownish black, brackish brown, 1 said black with gray tips, and in 3 cases the hair color was not given. Oh, and this is the next one's really interesting. Next one, Ben. The height of the animal. 5%, 5 witnesses reported the animal was 5 feet tall. 8 witnesses said it was 6 feet tall. 18 witnesses said it was 7 feet tall. 2 witnesses said it was between 7.5 and 8 feet. 13 people said 8 feet tall. 1 person said 8.5 to 9 feet tall. 2 said 9. 1 said 10 feet. 1 said 12 feet. 16 said large, 1 said damn tall, and 1 said it was goddamn big. Okay, Alberta, next one please. Breakdown's the same. Now, Alberta is unusual because for the longest time, from between 1969 to 1984, there was an unusual rash of extremely tall height reports in the province of Alberta. You know, 15, 13 feet, 14-foot tall creatures. Now, I always assume that witnesses tend to overestimate the height in the excitement of the moment. But, you know, something that's 9 feet, you think it's bigger than that because you're scared to death. But it's interesting that in Alberta, all these extreme height reports occurred in the same general vicinity of the province. And at the time these extreme height reports were coming in, normal reports were coming in. You know, normal by I mean 6, 7, 8 feet tall. And in 1984, they stopped. There were no more reports from this area of 15 to 14-foot Sasquatches, and yet reports of 6, 7, 8 foot continued. And of course, the most famous one of those is the 15-foot creature seen at the Bighorn Dam site. All the rest of the extreme tall height reports occurred within, you know, about 80 miles of that dam site, between 1969 and 1984, and they stopped. But here in British Columbia, I think about BC, right? 5 witnesses, well, actually I already did British Columbia. Next one, please. Alberta. 1 witness said it was 6 feet tall. 3 said it was 6.5 to 7 feet. 6 said 7 feet. 3 said 7.5 feet. 7 said 8 feet. 2 said 9 feet. 2 said 10 feet. 1 said between 10 and 12 feet. 2 said 12 feet. 1 said 15 foot, and he was backed up by 4 other men in that case. That's the Bighorn Dam incident. And 1 said it was really goddamn tall. And that was his exact words. So why Alberta had this rash of extremely tall height reports and why they have suddenly stopped, I think is very significant. Because, you know, you get the odd human being. It's normal for a man to be, like me, 6'1", and you get the you get the odd guy there that, you know, 7, 8 feet tall. Maybe we just had 1 or 2 individuals in the Rocky Mountains in Alberta that were in extreme height mark. They lived out their lives. They passed on, and no one ever, of course, ever sees them anymore. 1969 to 1984. You know, who knows? Who knows? Next one, please. Okay, the gender of the Sasquatch. This is something Autumn was talking on yesterday. British Columbia. 7 witnesses said it was male. And not one, only 2 cases of that was because male genitalia was reported. And in 1 case, a lady said they sure aren't giants in all respects. Yeah. They said they reported to me, the ones that did see male genitalia, the male genitalia is always hair covered and very, very hard to distinguish, and of course it's not very impressive. 6 said it was female because of Americans, but the vast majority, 73, 87% of the total, have no idea what gender of the animal was they saw. And a lot of them tend to go with the male gender when they don't know. Next one. Alberta, 5 reported male, 4 reported female, and the overwhelming majority, of 76%, 25, have no idea. Because the encounter was so brief, they didn't notice. Some said, I don't know, I guess it was male. That comes out a lot. So unless someone actually sees the breasts or the mammary glands of a female creature, usually they tend to assume that it's a male. Because quite frankly, look at Patty there. She's female by our sense of the word, by accident only. I mean, she's basically a big wrestler with breasts. Yeah. Next one, please. Corroboration. When you have 8 people telling you they saw the same thing at the same time, that's pretty convincing. And it really narrows down, in my opinion, possibilities of mistaken identification and, of course, downright hoaxing. Now, in British Columbia... Oh, next one, please. Wrong one. Yeah. In British Columbia, the number of witnesses, 42 incidents were one witness. One person said they saw a Sasquatch. 25 have 2 witnesses. These are from my files, by the way. 6 had 3 witnesses. 4 incidents had 4 witnesses. 1 had 5 witnesses. 4 unknown. There was just a whole bunch of people. No one ever bothered to take them all down, but they said there was about 8. And another one incident had 7 witnesses. That was the Boy Scout camp. Next one, please. Again, with Alberta, the breakdown is basically the same. One incident had 5 witnesses. 4 had 4 witnesses. 3 incidents had 3 witnesses who saw the creature. 8 incidents had 2 witnesses, and 16 was with single persons claiming they saw a Sasquatch. Now, again, these stats are based only what's in my files and what I've done. If I compared my notes to, say, Renee's or John's or Danielle's or anyone else's, these stats could completely change. So really, it gives you a rough idea of the character, in my opinion, the character and what these creatures are like, talking to eyewitnesses. But really, for an explanation as to what we're dealing with, eyewitnesses' account really can't do it. All eyewitnesses' accounts can tell you is someone says they saw a Sasquatch. And they either did or they didn't. There's no in between. Okay, now we're rushing a little bit. Next one, please. British Columbia, there's been in Canada, that's the number one hot spot. That's the reason why I moved there. Everywhere in the province, people have reported Sasquatch, as you all well know. Just like Washington, Oregon, Northern California. Next one, please. Now, of all the eyewitness accounts I've ever looked at, the most famous one, the most well-known one, the most interesting one was the Campground incident, which took place in Waterton Lakes National Park in the Victoria Day long weekend, which was last weekend in June of 1988, which is right up here in this area. That's the one where the 2 couples had the Sasquatch walk right through their camp. I've written about it extensively. Next one, please. This campground is an amazing area. Deer, mountain lion, grizzly. They quite often have to close it because of marauding bears, both grizzly and black. And one of the things that Susan Stoneass, the main witness in this case, said that she noticed was that all the deer disappeared. They were feeding deer out of their hand. They come right out and eat out of people's hands. So do elk in this campground. It's really quite an amazing place. But the night of this incident, about an hour before whatever it was seen, all the deer disappeared. And she sort of felt everything was all right because they ended up locking themselves in their cars for the rest of the evening. And she said she knew it was all clear the next day because the deer were back. So you've heard this story. They were going along to the campgrounds. They almost walked into it because it was standing on the trail. They came back. She yelled bear. Everyone ran helter-skelter to the cars. Cars were sitting back to back. Susan got in the one car. She locked the door. Her husband tried to get in. She wouldn't open the door for him. So he ended up getting in the other one. Someone had to be sacrificed, I guess. They turned on the headlights of one of the cars. They didn't see anything. They turned on the headlights, and the thing walked through the area illuminated by the lights. And unlike most cases, these people had the courage to report it to the park wardens the next day. Wardens is the Canadian term we use for park rangers. And they did an investigation. And Darwin J. Gillis, who was one of the four witnesses, insisted on making a written report on it. They were willing to just let him tell him what happened and let it go at that, but he insisted. Next one, please. Yeah, Crandall Campground, Site C3. That's the trail they were walking on. I know you can't see it very well when they nearly ran into the thing, and when they came back, the thing walked through this area towards Blackstone Brook. Next one, please. Site C3, here's where the cars were parked, here's where the fire was, there's the trail. They ran into whatever they ran into about here. They came running back. She yelled, bear, bear, bear. Everyone scrambled, get into the cars, lock, lock, lock. Husband comes back slowly, can't get in the car, goes into the other one. Thing walks around. And so the story went. Next one. Oh, just a blow up there of Site C3, which is right there, and there's the trail. And it goes up. Blackstone Brook is right here. These areas here, Site H was closed down at the time. There was nobody there. They usually don't open it up until midwinter. Sometimes during the Victoria Day long weekend, this campground is still closed because of deep snow. Because it takes an awful long time for winter to go away in Alberta sometimes. Next one, please. Again, it goes up. There's the trail. There's Site C3. Even if you have no interest in the Sasquatch whatsoever and you just want to go spend some time at an absolutely gorgeous place, Waterton Lakes National Park, southwest corner of Alberta, bordering on Glacial Park in Montana, man, you'll never forget it. Next one, please. This is her map. Again, she drew this, the trail, the cars, things like that. She didn't draw a death head for her husband, but you get the idea. Oh, by the way, I should mention the Stoners are now divorced. Right. Not because of that, but they got divorced not too long after that. I always wondered and chuckled about that. Next one, please. Yeah. Again, next one, please. That's where it went. It walked through here. Right down that gully in that dead ground there, towards Blackstone Brook. They said it was about 110 feet away. But when I measured it, actually they were only about 88 feet away. So they're a lot closer than they originally thought. The only difference is they thought it was rather thin in stature, but muscular overall. And they thought it was a lot taller than what they later saw when I showed them a copy of the Patterson film and asked them to compare it to it. Next one, please. Again, I think you're going backwards. Next one, please. Alberta, I just put this in to show you, indicate that's the prairies. That's the Rocky Mountains, and that's the boreal forest that covers an area about the size of England. It's a huge area. Next to British Columbia and Ontario, it's probably the biggest forested region in Canada. And there's only 2 million people in this massive area, so there's the idea of something like the Sasquatch living there, even 15-footers, never being seen is absolutely no problem as far as I'm concerned. Next one, please. Next one, please. That's just that trail again. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. There we go. Now, you all heard the uproar over the recent Manitoba footage that turned out to be, as far as I'm concerned, a real disappointment. Another video of something very far away, very blurry. Could be a Sasquatch, may not be, but as evidence, because of how distant and how unfocused it is, it's useless. It ain't the first time it's happened, as we all well know. Mike McDonald was going on a car trip with his girlfriend across British Columbia in 1997 when they spotted something off the Trans-Canada Highway right across this small area here, close to where Yarrow Road goes off to the north and the Indian Reserves to the west. And over here is Ruby Creek, by the way, and Seabird Island. All you saw is she was videotaping the whole trip. I watched 8 hours of video of this car trip all the way from Vancouver to Banff, Alberta to find the 7 seconds that I was interested in. Okay? They're going along. She's filming. He's talking. They're joking. The music is blaring away. They're young people. They're having a good time. They're traveling about 80 kilometers an hour. All of a sudden, you see him go, "What's that?" She goes, "Sasquatch." He goes, "What? Sasquatch." And they're past, and they're gone, and they come out, and she giggles, and they keep going. You know? He told me he never really thought he had anything important and didn't even consider trying to get a hold of me until he actually got back to England and reviewed the tape. Okay, next one, please. That's the spot where it happened. I tried to take this photograph where from the highway, the same point they were. And that's the Fraser River there, and that's the island. And the thing that was spotted was right around here. Now, at this point, it was underwater, but at that time, the river was down, so it wasn't. Next one, please. That's a still, and that's the object in question right there. Can you see that? And, of course, this is their car. They're traveling. He's going, what's that? She goes, Sasquatch. What's that? Sasquatch. And keep right on going. There's the little batch of trees. There's a little cemetery in there. Next one, please. And that's when it came into view again. There's the object, a Ford F-150 going the other way. As far as I know, no one else in all the vehicles here that day saw anything. Next one, please. Again, the Ford F-150 going by. I turned this video into the photographics department in the University of Calgary, and the photo experts there, a guy named Bill Blinder, agreed to look at this for me for free of charge because he's just fascinated by it. Unfortunately, doing blow-ups and things on video is not like the old 16mm film. Blowing up video is, you lose quality very quickly, because we tried. Next one, please. Oh, next one, please. Next one, please. Are we going backwards? Yeah. This is when you start blowing it up, this is what you get. A blob. And you can see the pixel lines through the video. But he did tell me that as far as he was concerned, it is large, it is upright, and it is moving towards the water. Whether it's a large man, he can't tell us. You know, he does say, and I can tell you with my own investigations, and I went there several times. I went there later on with John Green, and as a matter of fact, Daniel Perez, I think, went with us that one time. We went and looked. There's no stationary object there that could have been mistaken for this. And so it's one of those, could be a Sasquatch, maybe it isn't, but we don't know. Again, another video. Oh, there's something there. You know, we've seen them all. This one, most recent one from Manitoba, Marble Mountain, you know, the same ones. It's always the same thing. But here we go. But it sort of tells you and lets you know in perspective that if it happens and you see one, it's going to happen very fast. So you got to be ready. You got to be ready. Keep your cameras with you, guys. How many people are going to be driving home after this tonight and going through wooded areas without a camera with you? Hands up. Come on, be honest. Okay, very bad habit. Very bad habit. You got to try and break that habit. You got to. I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you're out and camping in a campground anywhere and you have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the outhouse, take your camera with you. Okay? Because that's probably what will happen. Okay, next one. Again, blowing up even more. That's the area it looked like later on. It's completely underwater. Where the thing was standing was right there. That's how the river goes up and it goes down. And now a lot of people who are looking at this Manitoba footage have to realize that the river level in that river too changes almost on a daily basis as well. Next one. Alberta again. Next one. If you ever get into Banff, Alberta, and you want to stop in the Museum of Natural History, this is a neat little thing you might want to take in. Kids love to get their pictures taken beside it. It's life size. I disagree with the skin color in the hands and face, but you get the idea. I think you did a pretty good job on it. Next one. Yeah, it's basically the only place in Alberta that even acknowledges the fact that the Sasquatch may be around. It's not. You don't see Sasquatch convenience stores in Alberta. You don't see Bigfoot campgrounds. You don't see anything like that there. You'd never know it was there. Go ahead. Rain Saltz, him and 5 other men saw a creature cross the Baptiste River, 1989, had his rifle sights on it, and didn't shoot. Next one. Footprint it left behind. Can everyone see that? Toes, Now, part of me wonders what Mr. Dirk Lundy was doing when I wasn't around, because I went through this area just before, and I didn't spot this. It wasn't that great, 12.5 inches. Next one. Only one track. Next one. But there was a lot of this. Now, I don't know, it's very easy for the bark to come off of these trees. But for some reason in the area where this thing was spotted, there was trees like this all over the place. Now, I didn't see any claw marks or anything like that. But they were filled with what we call carpenter ants. I don't know what you call them down here. They're just ant infested. And even with the cold weather that had come in, the ants were still active. And it almost seems like whatever it was doing was eating ants. Okay, go ahead. Oh, another investigation. Witnesses, sometimes, if you can, you like to get them to draw, whether or not they're artists or not, or you have someone with you who can draw. Get them to basically describe what they saw and draw a picture for you. Robert Alley accompanied me on this investigation in Cochrane in the early 80s. They described it, Robert drew it. And this is basically what they said they saw near Bearspaw, Alberta, which is just outside Calgary. Next one, please. That's another casting. This is one of the weird castings. Was found just outside of Rocky Mountain House, Alberta. Could be a footprint, could be not. The witnesses think so. What I think of what we got here is, and I just wanted to show you this as an example of what I believe could be how easy people can be fooled in the wilderness. I think what you've got here is two elk tracks side by side, and what made the heel impression is just a natural formation that was in the ground. Can anyone agree with me on that one? Right? But it gives you that general Sasquatch foot shape in general. Now, people see stuff like this in the ground all the time nowadays, and they think they're coming across Bigfoot tracks. John always told me in the old days it was great. When someone found a track, you usually found a track. But with all the media attention that's gone on over the last 30 years, people are assuming that the most mediocre holes in the ground are Sasquatch tracks. And it ain't always the case. Next one. Oh, the river over the Baptiste River in Alberta. Witnesses going, thing came out. They break to a halt on the bridge. Thing crosses, goes through the trees. He wants to go after it. Wife won't let him. She screams and yells. They tell me about it. Tribal police come and do an investigation. And then for some reason the tribal police won't admit they were even involved. I don't know why. Next one, please. Yeah. When witness drawing, Deborah Malone, she had the encounter near the Abraham Lake when she was age 13. She drew this little picture. Go ahead. Next one. The late Vladimir Markotic standing where the creature was seen at the Tay River Campground in Alberta. I took the picture from where the witnesses are. He was standing there where he is. But the witnesses at the time said the top of the head of the creature was about even with the sign. That's tall. And Vladimir's a little further beyond. And he's standing right where she said it was standing, and it was even with the sign. So I'll give you an idea how big the thing must have been. Go ahead. The Bighorn Dam site. This is the famous 15-footer that was seen. I've photographed this ridge a dozen times in the years. It was seen sitting down, standing up, crossing the whole ridge, coming back, and then disappearing in these trees back here. This is 1969. The witnesses said it was 15 feet tall. There are 5 of them. One went up to where it was seen, or 2 men went up to where it was seen, and the friends who stayed below compared their friend's height to the height of the creature. That's how they came across with the 15-foot estimation. And don't pay attention to that. That's just the first authenticated photo of the vortex between us and the fourth dimension. That has nothing to do with Sasquatch. Next question. You got to have a sense of humor in this. You really do. Like this appeared in the papers at the time of the Bighorn Dam incident. You got Dr. Sasquatch there. Tell me more about these little hairless, cloth-covered creatures you've been saying there at the Bighorn Dam. So you got to do it. You got to have a sense of humor in this. Next one, please. Alberta. This is quite outdated now. I should update this a little more. when I started in 79, there had been no one, Vladimir was there, but in Alberta, there was basically, I was all by myself. Vladimir looked into the subject as an epidemic in general. Now, now I find out there's a group that's up. Two of the gentlemen are here today who've come down from Calgary. Where were you guys all the time I was there? I was by myself for so long. But no, now there's another group. But the point is, when I started in Alberta, it was all fresh. And what I did is I actually advertised for people who believed they'd seen these things to come forward so they'd have someone to talk to. Because when I first went out there, when I was assigned there with the 1st Battalion PPCLI when I was in the Army, I looked at the Rocky Mountains and I said, you know, there's no wall built between Alberta and British Columbia. If they've been seen in eastern BC, they have to have been seen in western Alberta too. But other than a few stories in John Green's book, some of his older books, there was nobody. Well, when I put that ad in the paper, it was like opening a gate. My phone was ringing off the hook. And so everyone finally had someone to talk to. If you live in a small community, advertising in the local media may get you some results. Now, you got to be prepared for the hoaxes and, and the people who are going to phone you up and say, oh, yeah, man, I just saw a monster. He picked up my car and threw it away. And you got to be prepared for that stuff, Politely listen to them, say thank you very much, hang up, and don't contact them again. But for God's sakes, don't argue with them or they'll tear a bit off your ear. Next one, please. I knew Rene for a very long time. I went out in the field with him at least five different occasions. Rene was, he was Rene. What can you say? He'd always give you, he was always prepared to give you advice. He was always prepared to straighten you out when he thought you were going in the wrong direction. And like he would tell me, like, I don't like the idea of shooting a Sasquatch to get hard physical evidence. But I do face the reality that is probably what's going to have to happen because that's all the scientific organizations will accept. Now, Rene would look at me, Tom, don't say that. You got to keep your mouth shut about that stuff or people won't talk to you, and Rene would say things like that to me, and he was always prepared to, give good advice, and so Rene was always. I really missed the guy. Put it that way. I really missed the guy. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.